Did it go okay? Okay, let's move on then. I'm wondering how this one went. Solve the equation 440 equals C. All right, there's too much talking. C plus 200 for R after using the formula C equals 2 pi R to substitute for C. So they want you to take that and they want you to put it in there for C. That's what they're saying right now. So you get 440 equals 2 pi R plus 200. All right, then you subtract 200 from both sides. You get 240 equals 2 pi R, and you divide both sides by 2 pi, because you can. Well, you get 240 divided by 2 is what? 120. You could just write it like this, or if you went into and used the pi button, you'd get a different answer and that kind of stuff. But you could just write it like that, equals R. That's good. Okay? All right, we are going to go basic here. We're going to go back to actual graphing inequalities just as a reminder, because it might have been a while. So, if you have greater than or less than in a one variable inequality, you can graph what x can be on the number line, but you have to remember that when it's greater than or less than, you use an open circle. Do you remember that?
No.
Well, I'll show you. It does not include the number when you use an open circle. I'll show you in a second. Does not include the number given. Because, I'll let you write that first. I'll just go with it for a second and I'll explain it. Write that down. Yeah, when you have less than or greater than, you have to use an open circle because it does not include the number given. This is saying that x is greater than negative 3. Could x be negative 3? No. But it could be negative 2.99999. Correct? So what I like to do is I like to show where 0 is and then put the number down that you're starting with, the given number. And you have to graph on the number line everything that x could be. And x could be everything greater than negative 3, so that's what direction? This direction or that direction? To the right. And you have to put an open circle on negative 3 because it can't be negative 3. Because this is greater than negative 3. Got it?
All right.
It'll come back to you. We'll do some more.
I get it. But then you can with the
So this one right here, when it's this or this, you use a solid dot because this inequality includes 0. Includes the number given. So I'm just going to put 0 here. It's everything less than 0, so it goes this way, and I represent that it includes 0 with a solid dot.
Oh yeah, I remember this now.
This is x. It represents everything x could be. Could x be negative 5? Could x be negative 7? Yes. It makes that inequality true. Is it slowly coming back to you? All right. This is called a compound inequality. It's got two kind of borders on it.
Oh, I got you.
So we have to represent what x could be. X is in the middle of these. It has to be greater than or equal to negative 2, but it also has to be less than 3. So I'm going to put 0 here. I'm going to put negative 2 kind of where it should be, and I'm going to put 3. Now this number line represents everything x could be that would make that inequality true. So it can be greater than or equal to negative 2. Can it include negative 2?
Yes.
So I put a solid dot on negative 2. And it would be this direction. X is greater than or equal to negative 2. But it also has to be less than 3, which does not include 3. So it's this way. So what you would actually do is you would just connect these two because x can be anything in between here. Pardon me?
He's having a really hard time with this open circle.
Okay, so look at this inequality here. Do you get it, Noah? X is less than 3. Can it include 3? No, because it doesn't have a line underneath. Remember, it doesn't have the line underneath. That means it doesn't equal that number also.
Wait, so what are you supposed to look at the next?
So actually, the answer is just like this here. I'll show you the next one. This is an and inequality. And you may remember from absolute value inequalities, you have to graph and or. Or is like this. And is like this. I'll show you. I'll keep going. All right, so this is saying x is less than negative 1, or it could be greater than or equal to 1. So you're going to graph everything that x could be to make this situation true. So I'm going to put a 0. I'm going to put negative 1. I'm going to put positive 1. Let's start with this one. X is less than negative 1. Is that going to be an open circle or a solid dot? And then it's everything less than on the number line. Remember, we're representing x here. And then here, x is greater than or equal to 1. So is that going to be a solid dot? And it's everything here. So this is called an OR graph. This is an AND graph. And we'll get into more of that in a minute. It's either this or that. This has to meet both requirements. Okay? All right, turn it over. Wait, did you get that? And an OR. Oh, look, it's a story problem. Okay, you have budgeted $66 a month to spend on yoga classes. No matter what, it costs $66 a month. Your yoga student charges a $22 per month membership fee plus $5.50 per class. Oh, sorry, all you have is $66 to spend. You can't go over that. They charge you $22 a month, no matter what, plus $5.50 for every class. Describe the possible number of classes you can attend each month. So what is X? X is the number of classes I can attend. Number of classes or class, whatever, however you want to write it. Okay, here's how I write inequalities. Why is this an inequality? Because you can't spend more than what? 66. So sometimes you have to think about, is it an equal sign or an inequality? I know I can't spend more than 66. So how much does it cost per month? And how much does it cost for each class? And then I'm not going to put the inequality in here yet. I'm just going to write 66 here. Now I have to decide, oh, I lost my X. It's $5.50 per class. I have to decide, do I need this side to be less than or greater than 66? I need the money that I spend to be less than, it would be less than or equal to 66. So that's how I do it. Usually I write both sides and then I decide which way the sign has to go, the inequality. Okay? And then if we solve this, I don't want you to leave your answer like that. You have to explain to me, what does that mean to the situation? Or less. Yeah, you can attend 8 classes or less a month. Yeah. 8 classes or fewer, however you want to say it, per month to stay under your budget. Okay? All right, let's practice solving and graphing. So we just need to solve for x. You don't really do it anything different in this section. It's the same as solving an equation in this section, because they don't have any negatives in here, surprisingly. So what I want to do is I kind of want to solve without getting any negatives, so I'm going to subtract 4x. It doesn't really matter which way you go. Add 5 to both sides, you get 8 is less than or equal to 2x. Divide by 2. Now you guys, what surprises me in this section is they don't talk about what happens when you divide by a negative. Now if you had chose to solve this in a different way, you might have ended up having to divide by a negative. Does anybody remember what happens when you divide by a negative? You have to flip the direction of the inequality. Okay, so we did quite a bit of that in algebra, but for some reason, they don't discuss it in this whole section, which I don't agree with, because if you had taken a different path here, you might have had a -2 that you would have had to divide by. So I want you to write that down. I'm going to divide by 2, divide by 2. I get x is greater than or equal to 4. It just makes me, like, cringe to have an inequality written like that. I don't know why. It's a pet peeve, I guess. I always like to put the x on the left side. You don't have to, but I think it's easier to read. So if you flip the direction of this, x is greater than or equal to 4, it means the same thing, doesn't it? See how it's eating the x? Just make sure it's eating the x. If you choose to, you can leave it like...
It's the same answer.
It's the same answer. I just like to have the variable on the left. If you don't want to, it's okay. I think it's easier to graph this way too. Here's 0, here's 4, solid dot, everything greater than 4. Yeah? Okay. Subtract 5 from both sides. See that? You got to subtract 5 from both sides. So we have -10 take away 5 is -15 is less than 3x, which is less than or equal to 3. And what's the next step? Divide everything by 3, each side of the inequality, and you get -5 is less than x, which is less than or equal to 1. Oh, this is greater than -5, sorry. X is greater than -5. I didn't do any switching at all, because I didn't divide by negative. Okay. So sometimes it's easier if you kind of cover up this half and decide, okay, how is this going to look? This is saying x is greater than -5. Is that an open circle or a solid dot? And greater is this way, right? And then you cover this one up and you say, okay, x is less than or equal to 1. That's a solid dot. Somewhere over here on 1. And x is in between there. Yeah? Hi, in Illinois, the lowest temperature on record is -36 degrees Fahrenheit. In Congerville, while the highest temperature on record is 117 degrees in July 1954 in East St. Louis. So we have a range here of temperatures. Write the range of temperatures as an inequality. So, Fahrenheit, the smallest temperature was -36, and the biggest temperature was 117. So the range for the Fahrenheit temperature was between these two numbers. Yeah? Oh, this is really fun coming up here. It says, write the inequality given the temperature range in degrees Celsius. What? Then you got to remember that on page 26, it gives you these formulas. And one of the formulas that it gives you is that Fahrenheit is equal to 9/5 Celsius plus 32. One of the formulas it gives you is that. Look, there's an F here, isn't there? So I have to take this, and I got to substitute it in for F. Yeah, because they want you to solve for Celsius. So -36 is less than or equal to 9/5 C plus 32, which is less than or equal to 117. This problem. Minus 32 from both sides. And then how would you get rid of that 9/5? Multiply by 5/9. Instead of dividing by a fraction, multiply by its reciprocal. And you would end up with this. Okay, I changed the homework from the calendar. I apologize, but I did. I looked at it last night. Oh, it's not that hard. Cross off what's on the calendar and write this, okay? 3 through 21 odd. And 23 through 47 EOO. What do you think that stands for? It's not too many problems.
Oh.
These are real quick, draw on the number lines. These are solving, and that's just one little story problem.
Why? What page is it on?
Page 44.